morning. I'm back. I was in Iowa last week. My name's Kyle. I work here. Real life exists to help people who are far from God, or who feel far from God, find real life in Christ. And I was gone last week because I was back caring for my mother. I knew she had fallen and broken her shoulder, but I didn't know the details. I got back there, and I guess she had a big party with a big rager with some of her neighbors, and she got out of bed the next day, tripped over a kegger, and landed on a box of empty pizza boxes. And so serves her right. So I spent most of my time scolding her and a series of mini sermons on the evils of drinking and overeating pizza. In reality, she's doing slightly better. She's going to hang in there fairly well. She's well cared for. My stepsisters are back there and their kids, and she's got lots of friends. So, listen, if you're planning a vacation, northeastern Iowa is a beautiful place to go. Never, ever, any time of the year, ever. It's not, no. In fact, I followed a tornado in. I flew. My stepsister was like saying, are you sure you're coming? Yeah, I'm coming. I'm in Spokane, flying to Denver. Well, there's a big tornado. I said, what are you talking about? I guess this tornado wiped out this little town, and I was just flying behind it. So I think that if you learn nothing this morning, never travel to Iowa. I think that's the first to fill in on your notes. Listen, how's your margin? We're finishing this like a bunch of you have been here the last few weeks, and you're like, okay, I'm done with this series, move on. It's pretty convicting, and this is the last week. But we've been talking about margin, and that life is better with margin. When you have, all of life happens in the margins. You got all the stuff you have to do. But when you organize your life and you make some priority changes, all the fun, good stuff happens in the margins. And the margin is that space between your current pace and your limits. And some of you are moving so fast that you are right up to your max limit and you're ready to hit the wall. Margin says slow down and give yourself some space there. Because if you always live at your limit, eventually at some point you are going to quit enjoying life. And some of you, even though maybe you don't want to say it out loud or want to push back a little bit, it's okay. You know it's not enjoyable. It's just too much. It's too much. And you're like in the middle of it and say, yeah, but what do? I can't do anything. You can. Have a conversation, slow down. Re-listen to this series over and over. Because no margin leads to burnout. And I love this because when I talk about this, I had a guy one time say to me, I'd rather burn out than rest out. Like just sit around doing nothing, get accomplished. I'd rather burn out than rest out. But listen, either way, you're out. You're still out. Like, oh, you're moving, you're accomplishing, blah, blah, and then you get burned out. You're still out. You're still out of the game. Not worth it. Burnout is when, I love this definition, when your soul can no longer bear the weight of your life. And you may be even moving at a pace that other people think is balanced and stuff, but inside, your soul, who you are, who you are at night when you're falling asleep and you're contemplating your day, your soul is just weighed down. Not worth it. Not worth it. Now listen, as a pastor, and I've been at this, a long time now, 40 years or something like that. But even I and Pastor Billy and Brewster, welcome Brewster, good to have you here, and everyone online, including Mom. Mom discovered YouTube, how to watch it. When I was there, so she's frustrated right now because she can't get it on. Pastor Billy and I would agree. Billy's been a pastor 5-6 years or so. I've been at this 40 years. There's a list of things that we want for everybody we come in contact to, but especially people that show up to any of our churches at any time. We want to just press this easy button and make it happen for everybody. For example, we want everybody to find hope and experience grace that comes through Jesus. That's what we're all about. And if that's new to you, you're at the right place. We want everybody to be able to celebrate a friend's faith that you've invested in. That you found hope and faith in Jesus, and you've shared that with somebody else, and then they found hope and faith in Jesus. Man, I wish that for everybody. in the room, listening everywhere. We would love that everyone would have some time for personal daily time hanging out, listening and talking to Jesus and connecting. Whether that's in the morning or late at night, I wish I could press a button and that would all happen for all of us. We want everyone to develop a broken heart for broken people. That we just don't live for ourselves. We look around in our church, we look around our community, we look around in our world, and we say, where can I make a difference? Because there's people that are going with less and are being left out, and let's do something about it. We wish we could press a button, and I'd press it over and over and over, that everyone would enjoy a happy, healthy marriage and family. So difficult. That we press a button and that we would choose to serve and invest in things that make a difference. First of all, in our families and then all around our community. And today, I'm just going to settle down on one of these things. And we would love to press a button and have every single person that ever bumps into our church be actively participating in the community that comes from a real life group. And all of you just said, oh, this is just commercial for your real life groups. Yes, it is. I'm going to try to sell you in just a few short minutes why you should be involved weekly, monthly, the rest of your life in a small group. Because you hear us say stuff like this all the time. Circles are better than rows. I dig church. I love this. I like the way we do church. I like this. But man, when you circle up with other people who are doing life with you and moving at the same pace with you, and you're investing in each other, and you're praying for each other, and listening to each other, and meeting each other's needs, it's the best. Life is better together. Life is better together. Listen, if you're like a Christian or a Bible person, you grew up in the church, all right? You got to agree with what I'm about to say. If you're new to faith or this whole thing you still have questions about, all right, then just see what you think. But in the New Testament especially, from Jesus to all the writers of the New Testament, to Paul and Peter and John and those guys, they all use phrases like love one another, be kind to one another, forgive one another, carry each other's burdens, care for each other. How do you do that if you're not with others? You can't do the togethers. You can't care for each other unless you're with each other. The walk with Jesus, life was never meant to be lived alone. It's always meant to be lived with somebody else. You know, okay, I got my family. All right, hold on. Jesus has this great verse where he stops and he's talking to his disciples, not talking to the whole crowd. He's talking to like his committed guys, his posse, like the guys that are buying into what he's doing. He's not instructing wayward, wicked people. He stops and he says this, listen, Jesus says to the disciples, things that cause people to stumble are bound to come. I preached this verse to my mom and she didn't listen. Jesus said, listen, no matter what, there's stuff that you can't anticipate that's coming your way. If you read, Jesus probably spoke in Aramaic when they translated the scriptures and put it into Greek. The Greek writers would have sounded a little bit like Yoda, and they would have taken this verse and it would have been translated strictly, impossible it is for stumbling blocks not to come. You cannot avoid it. That literally the Greek word that's used is like a trap. It's impossible to avoid being caught in a trap. And you said, not me. Jesus says, yeah, you. There's stuff that you won't see coming. The definition that Jesus is using, because he's using it figuratively, is a stumble is anything that causes us to act contrary to a proper set of actions or belief. Like you're going this way and something blindsides you and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to go this way anymore. Or I don't believe this anymore. Something happens. The reason you stumble over something is because you didn't see it. If you saw it, you'd step over and keep moving. But Jesus says that every one of you, from middle schooler to whatever age you are, it's impossible for you to get through your life without having something come in your life that's going to knock you off course, that's going to blindside you, that's going to put you in a place you never intended to be. And all the old people said, amen, of which I am one. Stuff like this. You run into a new idea that someone has. Have you noticed this internet has all kinds of thoughts? You can find all kinds of new ideas out there. Or you meet a new person and they say, hey, have you thought about this? Or you gain success and you never knew that being successful was going to blindside you and knock you to a place you didn't want to be. Or the opposite, you go through a very difficult, painful time and you get knocked off course and you didn't see it coming. Now listen, this is the only part I'm going to get up in your business a little bit. But do you think it's possible for something to come in your life? Listen, you're a follower of Jesus. Do you think it's possible for something to come in your life that would knock you off course and make you quit following Jesus? Jesus says it is. Do you think there's possible that someone would come in your life that would make you start thinking differently? That one day you would walk up and say, wait a minute, I used to be so close to Jesus or to church or faith, and how did I get so far away? Do you think that's possible? Jesus says it is. Now, it's one thing when we're like, okay, yeah, maybe for me. Parents, grandparents, do you think it's possible for something to come in your kids' and grandkids' life that they don't see coming, that they stumble over, that knocks them off course from the way you raised them, to the way you trained them, to your hopes and beliefs about them? Jesus says it is. Listen, a couple thoughts. You may have a solution, a different solution. This is the best one I have for you. Because it is so easy to stumble out of church. And I don't care what size church that is, but especially if it's a little bit bigger. Some of you could quit attending here in Chelan or Brewster, or if you're online, we would never know. And I would have no idea. Like if you stumbled over something that caused your faith to be shattered a little bit, and you just kind of slowly faded and disappeared, I wouldn't know. And we got lots of staff, and Sarah Barnes would try to know, and Pastor Megan would try to know. I mean, if you had kids and real kids, Pastor Ellen would try to know, but we won't know. It's easy to stumble out of church. It's super difficult to stumble out of community. When you're in a small group, and you quit attending, you stumble over something, you quit showing up. Man, a good small group, don't be scared of this. They're going to hunt you down. You're going to have to change your number. You're going to have to move. Because when you get in a caring, loving community of small group, in a real life group, which I believe in the way we do groups, and you decide, I don't believe this anymore, I'm not coming anymore, okay. Someone from that group is going to say, hey, you want to have coffee? Let's talk about this. Seems like something has blindsided you and you've stumbled over it. Let's talk. Now, some of you are like, listen, that's what my family's for. But I don't know if you know this. We don't listen to family. Right? I don't want to get up in your business too much. I'll give you my business. I'll say something to my wife. Like, honey, did you know this is the proper way to do this? And she'll look at me with her shimmering blue eyes. And she'll say, you don't know what you're talking about, Chubby. All right. All right. The next day, we can be hanging out with Ken and Sarah Barnes. And Ken Barnes would say, Darlene, do you know that this is the proper way to do this? And she'll say, I never knew that. Thank you, Kenny, for sharing that with me. What the heck? Multiply that by 1,000,000 with your kids. Right? You tell your kids something. How many of you have kids, especially those grade schoolers? All right? How many have grade schoolers, and then they're just out of control with you, but they go for a sleepover at somebody else's house, and the parents are like, your kids are so well behaved. And you're like, whose kids are these? They listen to their friends' parents, but they don't listen to you. We don't listen to family. Listen, when if you think you're going to save your kid or save your spouse or save your parents from some stumble, no way. What voices are in your kid's life? What voices are in your family's life? Because if you think you're going to save them just from you talking in your family, it doesn't happen. That's why you better be careful where your kids hang out, who your kids hang out with, because they're going to be getting information, they're going to be asking questions, and pretty soon, and I know this is heartbreak for you grade school parents, listen, someday they're going to stop listening to you. And then who they listen to. Solomon, which the Bible calls the wisest man who ever lived. He was a king of Israel. He really had it great. He had 1,000 wives. I don't know how great that would be. All kinds of money. He just was filthy rich. He led in total peace. It was a great gig. But somewhere along the line, he stumbled over a bunch of stuff and he got off course and he got moved from his direction towards God to something else. And unlike a lot of people, he was able to write down in the Old Testament, this book we call Ecclesiastes, he was able to write down all the mistakes he made. He's an old man and he's looking back on his life and he writes down his thoughts. As if to his son or to his grandson, saying, listen, you got to avoid this. I know it sounds a little, when Solomon writes, it's like, hey, do what I say, not as I did, because he did all the bad stuff, and now he's saying, please avoid this. So in the middle of this book, it's just great wisdom. And he stops and he says, listen, 2 are better than 1. They have a good return for their work, for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity the person who falls. Pity the one who stumbles over something they didn't see that was there and has no one to help them up. 2 are better than 1. Circles are better than rows. Groups are better than individuals. Because there's help. Listen. When we stumble over something, 2 things happen. First of all, stumbling produces panic. If you love someone and they stumble over something and now they're off course, whatever that is, and you know exactly what I'm talking about in your situation when I say that, whatever that is for you. When you stumble off course, there's a little panic. When I get a phone call, again, I love you all, and it's okay. It's all right. Bill understands this too. No one calls me and says, hey, what are you doing? Just want to stop by and say hi. No one does that. It's okay. I got friends. I got small groups. When I get a phone call, it's like, my kid's in trouble. My marriage is in trouble. I'm in trouble. And inevitably, sometime in that conversation, probably when they come in and meet with me face to face, I say, are you in a small group? Are you guys in a small group? Where are you? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Because if they were in a small group, they wouldn't panic because they would already have access to people who care and love them and can give them advice. Kind of makes my job easier. There's panic that sets in when someone you love stumbles or when you stumble. Because pity the person who falls and has no one to help them up. You go from panic to pity. Stumbling produces pity. That's a strong word. No one likes that word. But if you fall and stumble and you can't get back on course, you can't maybe even get up on your own. That is pitiful. But all I got to say is this. Solomon knew what it was like to fall. He messed up over and over and over. And he's saying, hey, listen, to avoid that, surround yourself with somebody else, somebody's else. Psalm would say, pity the person who stumbles and falls and has nobody to help, has no access to people who can help. Pity the person who stumbles and falls and has no one who is relationally connected to them to help. Pity the middle schooler or high schooler who stumbles and falls and has no trustworthy, stable, steadfast voice in their life to help them up. If you've been around here long enough, you've heard me say this many times. I don't know why you wouldn't have your kid, middle school or high school, attending Rendezvous and participating with Graham and the youth staff. Whatever that reason is, maybe you're too busy. Well, the series is for you. But baked in the Rendezvous pie is these small groups where every kid has access to a caring, loving adult who, when your kid stumbles and falls and they're not going to talk to you about it, they'll have somebody. Listen, there's lots of stuff that can knock us off course. Here's how we produce. Here's how we do small groups. Here's the real life rhythms. There's all kinds of small groups. Maybe you've been in one. Here's ours, really quickly. Sarah and Megan created these rhythms. There's the Learn rhythm, which everything we do is based on God's word and Jesus. There's the Invest, which we want to invest at least once a month, have a meal together, hang out together, do something fun together. Follow is the F in life, which follow means to create the habits, do the habits, recreate the habits that Jesus did, and participate in those. And finally, engages you and your small group, do something that makes a difference in the world. Now, there is, I can blah, blah, blah up here forever. But I wanted to bring somebody out here and talk about what small groups mean and what a difference they can make. My buddy Matt Matthews III is on his way out here right now. Your applause. I love it that your sound doesn't work since you're the sound guy. Now you know how I feel. Take it. Cut his mic. Matt Matthews III we have been friends since he was a sixth grader. He was in my youth group. He showed up, and we always do these, when new sixth graders come in, we do these surveys, and we ask them questions. And his first question, in fact, it was Phil Cullen who was interviewing him, and said, Matt, what's your name? And he said, Matt Matthews. And so Phil just said, when he introduced him, this is Matt Matthews III. We've called him that ever since. 7-8 months ago, Matt was looking for a job, and we were looking for a sound tech, and so we had a conversation, and we hired him. It wasn't but just a week or two after that Matt's 6-year-old son, Zeke, got sick, and he died, and he went to be with Jesus. In that, it's been 6 months since he passed, right?
Yesterday.
Tell us, let's move into that. Tell us what small group you joined and why originally.
So probably, 3 or 4 weeks before the work stuff happened, I joined the Liebeckers group. My wife and I have been friends with Charlie and Lacey for a while. She's like, hey, I want to do a small group, and I do what every good husband does, and I listen to my wife. And so we joined their group, and there was people we knew in the group. There was people that were new to us, and it was amazing. You flash forward 6 months. It was all part of God's plan that we were supposed to be in that group, meet those people. Week one, there was tears, there was laughing, there was little kids running around. It was exactly where we were supposed to be at that time, and it was just a sermon discussion group. We just talked about the sermon. We met Sunday nights at Cardis, and it was awesome. And then it was the week before Thanksgiving, I think, that all the work stuff happened. I brought it to the group. Everybody prayed for us. And then The first day I was supposed to start at Real Life was the day Zeke passed, December 1st.
Tell us what the group meant to you during that time.
The group was everything. I mean, there's nothing more absolute than losing somebody, especially a child. And I could not imagine going through that without a group. If I were in New York City in a big giant city, just a number, a fly on the wall kind of thing, it would have been impossible. Having the group between text messages, phone calls, even when I didn't respond, everybody was there. Community was too. I mean, we ate so much chili and tacos that I still got frozen lasagnas in the freezer. It just meant everything. There's no way we could have done it.
I was super proud of our church and our community. It just so happened I was out of town. So Pastor Graham grabbed the reins, and Jordan Lehman and Pastor Graham kept going back and forth to Seattle and everything. Super proud of the way you all cared for Charlie and Matt and the kids. In fact, we as a church would lean in and say, hey, do you need something? And they're like, no, we already got it. Because they're a small group and others had led first. I don't want to speak for you, Matt, but I mean, we've talked so much, but I would say, tell me if you agree, you can disagree with me. You'll be fired tomorrow. Matt and Charlie are not okay. They lost their son. Their faith is intact, but that doesn't mean every day is happy. Yeah?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you're like, hey, how does that guy stand up there and talk? It's day to day, day to day. We can say that within this tragedy that you've been through and how you felt cared, now 6 months later, we're expecting a baby, aren't we? Yeah. And when that baby's born, we're going to care for you and care for the baby and keep moving on. One last small group question is, what are you still in a group and what are you doing?
So I don't remember how long ago it was. When we started the other groups, we joined Graham and Kayla's Practicing the Way group. The group we were in, everybody else kind of joined other groups, and we were ready to try something else and new. And Charlie came to me and just said, "Hey, I want to join the Monteleone's group." And I said, "Okay." So we went, and they started out with dinner. Kayla is the salad master, and it was awesome. There was lots of faces we knew, young, old. Or seasoned, I'm sorry.
The old's fine.
Old's fine. Retired. So we just got to it was really relaxed and easygoing, but it was just talking about John Mark Comer's Practicing the Way. So the first one we did was the Sabbath, which I had learned as a kid what it was supposed to be for, but we never really did it. Sunday was family day. We couldn't hang out with our friends. We just didn't know why. So we joined that group, and it really just took you where you were. You know, Graham talked last week about where his family is, and we were at the opposite end. We were at the beginning of that. 2 teenagers on their phones is really hard to make them put it away. Same with, I struggled with it too, but it showed the example of what it was for, how Jesus did every single day, and why he did it, and then why we should do it as well. And so that was really good.
I'm going to pray for Matt and Charlie and his family. God, thank you for your goodness. Thank you that you come through all the time, and there's so many times, and some severely, where we think, uh-oh, you're not going to come through again, but you do. I ask for continued support and care and love and healing for Matt and Charlie and Cameron and Kira. I ask that you would continue day by day as they deal with their grief, that they continue to be honest and they find help and support from you and others, people around them. We celebrate their new family moving forward. And God, we just ask that you would bless them and surround them and protect them in every way. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, Matt. All right. I'm going to give you 3 quick next steps. And in your handout that you got, both in Brewster and here in Chelan, there's a blue card. There's a blue card online. We love the blue cards. This way we connect. If you have questions, prayer requests, and also that's where the next steps are, so you can check that off, that you're working on something, as well as take your handout home. All right? Let me give you, just out of this thing, obviously I'm trying to sell you on the benefits of you and your family being involved in a small group. So here's 3 quick next steps. Number 1, celebrate your community. If you're in a small group, tell somebody how much you love them and how much you appreciate them. If you're always at the same house, tell that person how much you appreciate them. If you show up in small groups and you enjoy it, let the people know in your small group. You're like, hey, we're not kind of meeting during the summer. Well, send them a text. All right? Darlene and I have the benefit of being in an old seasoned group and a very young group. And the old seasoned group, we've been together 5, 6, 7 years. I don't even know. It's life to us. And then we started this young married group, and we're just going to do it for 8 weeks. And then, and I don't know if you noticed, young marrieds are super busy. And they're really old thinking. Like, we would start at 7, and pretty soon they were like, can we start at 6? Can we start at 5? Because they all go to bed so stinking early. I don't know what's wrong with them. So I started doing that. So we started at 5. Small groups should never go more than 90 minutes of content and visiting. So I always ended at 6:30. Darlene and I would leave our basement, walk up the stairs at 9 o'clock, and we'd say, like, what are we going to do with these people? Because we're done with a small group, but that's not what they came for, not just the teaching and the instruction. They came for the atmosphere of friendship and support. We love them. And we try to celebrate them. I probably don't celebrate them enough. So if you're involved and you have found anything positive from being in your small group, celebrate that. Celebrate that today. Let someone know. 2, join or invite a friend to participate in a real life group. Now, here in Chelan, we're launching some summer ones. In Brewster, if you're like, hey, I want to be in a small group, then talk to Joyce, Billy's wife, and talk to Billy and see what's available and see what's out there. All right. If you're like, hey, I enjoy my group, invite a friend to it. Like, well, ours is closed. Then start a new one. Talk to Megan, talk to Sarah, get involved. If in fact, okay, I may be wrong. If in fact there are things in life, and Jesus was right, that will cause you or your family members to stumble, wouldn't it be great if there was a supportive cast of people that would be there to help them up and pick them up, even warn them before they even have to stumble? If that's true, wouldn't you want to somehow form some kind of group that was encouraging, instructing, caring, and inviting that would help through that process? Come on, imagine the difference. Look back in your life. When you were a kid, what if your parents had been in a caring, loving small group based on the love and grace of Jesus? What if remember that one weekend, that one time in college, that one that like you don't even talk about? Like you don't even go to that city anymore because of that one weekend. What if you had a group around you? When you felt the worst, when you lost a job, when you went through a breakup, what if you had a group? Just imagine the difference that could be made right now as you start today. Also, begin again. Like, I was in a small group and I hated it. All right. You go to a restaurant and you don't like the food, you don't quit going to restaurants, right? You go to the Apple Cup and have a bad meal, which I don't know how that's even possible. You just go back to Apple Cup, just don't get that meal. Like if you've been in a bad group or you had a loudmouth in there or it was boring or whatever, okay, don't go back to that group. Get a new group. Begin again. There's all kinds of ways to do small groups, and there's a way that you will enjoy and benefit, and your kids. Finally, would you consider that you would slow down and consider the rhythms of Jesus? I guarantee you there's margin there. You're like, Kyle, I don't have any margin right now, and you're asking me to join a small group. I don't have time for that. Listen, real life small groups aren't an additional time commitment. They don't add more commitment to your life. They move with your life. They're an addition to your life. It's not just another appointment to check off. It's an enhancement to the rhythm of your life. And if you're new to faith or not yet a follower of Jesus, the invitation is not follow these rules, stop doing those things, think like me. It's completely different. It's based on grace. So when Jesus says to a bunch of hurting, discouraged people, are you tired? Are you worn out, burned out on religion? Jesus says, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. And I bet you some of you that are in a great small group, when you get to your small group and you sit down and settle in, there's kind of like this, like you're just kind of home. Jesus keeps going, he says, walk with me and work with me, watch how I do it, and learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Jesus says, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn, wouldn't this be great? You'll learn how to live freely and lightly. If I could push a button, I would want that for all y'all. That'll make a difference in you, your marriage, your kids, your future. I'm praying you make that choice today.